So, all right, back to my screen share and we'll get right to the most disgusting webinar I've ever done. So, all about parasites. That's why you're all here. So what are they? If you're watching this, there's a good chance you have parasites. I know that's really horrible news, unless you're someone who's watching this who is one of my long-term clients or somebody that I like to talk about parasite cleanses with. I know Marissa literally just did one. Quite a few of you do them, but for anyone who's never done a parasite cleanse and you eat lots of animal products or other foods we'll talk about, probably it's a good idea to do this. So a lot of sources estimate that up to 85% of the North American population has at least one parasite in their bodies. Dr. Oz actually was very controversial for going on TV and saying he thinks it's 90 to 95%, and medical doctors think it's more like 10. So there's a lot of discrepancy there. But functional medicine and naturopathic doctors are the ones that tend to lean towards more of the higher end of that spectrum. So there's two types of parasites, really, really big visible ones, tapeworms, ones you see gross pictures of online. But then there's also smaller ones, which are microscopic and can actually be just as damaging. So these are some different common symptoms associated with parasitic infections. And some of them might surprise you, like adrenal fatigue, for example. So how can adrenal fatigue be linked to parasites? One of the reasons that is proposed, we don't know for sure, is because parasites release ammonia into the body. And ammonia is a toxin that is very, very difficult for our bodies to flush out. The adrenals have to do it. It can cause them to overwork. So that's a very prominent theory that that's how it causes it. The adrenals just get burnt out trying to constantly deal with the array of toxins from this ammonia being flushed. And that's also what causes joint pain, even anxiety. We'll talk a little bit about the gut as well. Additional symptoms. So none of these symptoms in and of themselves mean that you have parasites. All of these symptoms, or many of these symptoms for prolonged periods of time, means that you quite possibly do, and you should consider doing a parasite cleanse and definitely changing your diet. So there can be different causes for these things, but I've had people go down the list and literally say, oh my gosh, I have many of those or most of those. And so that's the type of person I would say definitely consider, first of all, cleansing and then also changing your diet. One person just messaged me that they can't hear. Can anybody else leave everyone else thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, sorry, Tara, you. Yeah, just check your volume and make sure you connected to audio on your phone. But if everyone else can hear, I'm gonna keep going. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Kendra. Okay, so skin problems, that's something that is very interesting to people too. So they get eczema and rashes, and they think that these things are surface, topical conditions, but actually they're almost always stemming from internal environment. So by cleaning the internal environment, by supporting our immune system and our body's ability to flush out toxins, you're gonna see less of that erupting on the skin. So what causes parasites? So in the top, I put the little block of kind of the common things that we're told, international travel, you go swimming in a dirty lake somewhere, you have bad hygiene, weak immune system, you swallow water while swimming in a lake. These things are all true, but actually where it seems like most people in North America and the Western world are getting parasites from is from the lower half. So eating unwashed fruit and vegetables, restaurants with poor hygiene, undercooked animal products, cross-contamination from undercooked animal products. Interesting fact, the bacteria that causes urinary tract infections in women it comes from raw chicken primarily. So that's how you can give yourself a UTI. You bring raw chicken into the house, you clean it, you cook it up, but maybe your hand touches your sink. And then so it's very, very easy for tiny, tiny pathogens, bacteria, pesticides, parasites, and eggs to move around the body and move around the house. Sleeping with pets, I know that's gonna get me in trouble with some people, but if your pets can sleep separately, then, and also another interesting one, not everyone's ready for this one. If you have sex with somebody with parasites, you will probably get their parasites. So be careful who you choose as a partner. And we'll talk about cute romantic couples parasite cleanses you can do together. So wash your produce. This doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need to have, fancy soaks and soaps and all kinds of stuff. Really, just getting a vegetable brush is kind of enough. Just using water that is constantly flowing and making sure the surface is nice and clean should be enough to get rid of any debris with soil that could have parasite eggs in it. Simple as that. Oh, Eric, I can't sleep without my puppy next to me. Yeah, I know. I was like that too with my dog. So, that's okay. We have a solution for everyone who's just not willing to give that up. Michael said soak for 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, that's a great thing to do for pesticides. Different than parasites. So, if you got organic or backyard organic, those foods can actually still have parasites despite having low pesticides. But yeah, it's always good to soak. I don't advise soaking in tap water just because of the fluoride and the chlorine. I don't like those things in my water. I'm a hippie. So whatever works for you, just make sure your vegetables are clean. Include hookworms, roundworms, heartworms, whipworms, tapeworms. So many of these can actually be transferred to humans. Okay, back to all the gross things we can get from our amazing furry friends. So something you can do to deworm your pets after the initial deworming they get as puppies is called diatomaceous earth. So this is something that's really, really, really cheap. It's easy to find, and it is just a type of dried earth. It's from algae from the bottom of a lake. It's super clean. Just get food grade. You can get it online, very, very cheap. Just sprinkle a little bit in your pet's food. You can also eat it. It's safe for humans too. I don't want anyone giving their pets anything that isn't also safe for humans. We have a big responsibility to take care of our furry friends. So just try and remember to also choose non-toxic and safe things for them as well. Keep your mouth shut when swimming in rivers, lakes, ponds, and streams. This will stop many types of parasites in contaminated waters from entering your body. But in the picture there's one that's kind of known as swimmer's itch. If any of you ever go swimming in a lake, you might have seen this. Those are actually little tiny surface parasites that can attach to the body after a swim. So one way to get around that is as soon as you get out of the lake, just have a shower right away, scrub your body off, and you should be good to go. Someone said, is it the same for cats? Yes, don't sleep with any of your pets. Definitely not. And yes, diatomaceous earth is a good way to deworm all of your pets. Okay, so how romantic and cute is this? You should do a couples parasite cleanse. If any of you are thinking that your partner would never do that, you never know. You can make it fun. You can make it exciting. Michelle said before having sex. Well, if you've already had sex, then do it together now. But if you haven't yet, then yeah, I mean, what's the rush? Wait 30 days. You won't die. Come on, we need raw vegan couples. Yes, well, I agree, but raw vegans can actually still have parasites from any of the other sources that we kind of mentioned. Allison said Jariner started today. Yes, perfect. See, that's so romantic. You can make green juices together. You can detox together. You can talk about your horrible die-off symptoms and get cranky with each other together. It'll be so sweet. So that's what I recommend people do. Yeah, so romantic. Health is hot from Allison. I completely agree. Find somebody who wants to do this with you and, just watch your lives change. It's pretty awesome when you have somebody who's willing to dive in with you, and all the old food that you love to eat, all the junk food, it'll still be waiting for you in 30 days. It's not going anywhere. All that crap is still on the other side. You can always go back to it, but maybe you will discover a new way to feel that is so much better and you won't want to go back. That's what happens to most people, but the choice is yours. But really give yourself 30 days, do a parasite cleanse, and just see how it goes. This is why it's important. So Ciguatera. So this is a really good video. I put just a little picture of it here. Ciguatera poisoning and chronic fatigue syndrome. So this is on nutritionfacts.org. It's an awesome, awesome video to watch. I personally learned a lot from it. It's quite a few years old. So Ciguatera is a type of food poisoning, and it's actually one of the most common forms of food poisoning. It comes from fish. So if you look at the diagram, you can kind of see how it bioaccumulates up the food chain. The fish eat the smaller fish, eat the medium-sized fish, and the big fish now is super contaminated. The same goes for animals. Anytime you eat animals, which I don't advise at all, but if you're gonna eat animals, you wanna eat at a lower trophic level down the food chain. You wanna eat the animals that are vegetarians. You don't want to eat the animals eating animals eating animals. And I'll explain a little bit more about why, but it's the same concept with Ciguatera. It actually contains neurotoxins in some of these fish. and the fish looks and tastes and smells normal. It's very hard to tell if it's infected, and you can actually transmit this sexually, and what it leads to in many cases is chronic fatigue syndrome. So we're starting to find out that many of these syndromes and things that seem unexplained are linked to underlying health conditions or parasites in this case. So just a little bit more information there from some different blogs. This is something very, very important to consider, especially if you're ever trying to conceive or have a child, or you're already pregnant, or you're breastfeeding. Stay away from seafood. It's not worth the risk at all. You can get all of your omegas from amazing omega-rich sources from plants, and I can recommend some of those to you as well. It's just not worth the risk, and also to pass this on to your partner. Does that include oysters? No, I don't think oysters can get ciguatera, but oysters are bottom feeders, and so they are the filtration system for the ocean. So they get a lot of other contaminants in there that are pretty gross that I don't recommend. Other sexually transmitted parasites. So these are also just called STDs. So actually, if you see here, chlamydia is a type of parasite, and it's an intracellular parasite. And then trick, which is a more of a common STD, that also that can be killed with the right dose of antibiotics. And I don't recommend someone do a parasite cleanse as opposed to getting treatment for an STD. Do not get me wrong. This is just about learning about the different types of parasites and how to create our bodies to be less likely to become ill, and also to not have the environment that's going to harbor these things. So just, couples parasite cleanse before you sleep together. Highly, highly recommended. Malaria also is a parasite. So while you might think there's nothing I can do about it, it's just coming from mosquitoes, not everybody experiences malaria the same way. Some people get a little bit sick, some people get very sick, some people die. And so what makes the difference is same thing with what we're experiencing now with COVID. Most people who are passing from COVID have other health conditions. They have obesity, they have diabetes, they have heart disease, underlying conditions that have been there for years. It's the same thing with anything, especially anything parasitic too. The stronger your immune system is, the more likely you will be able to combat this and win and not suffer as much. So very, very important to just keep your body in an alkaline state. That just means lots of fruit and vegetables. Pass on the pork. So pork is the meat you are most likely to contract worms from, except maybe fish, but that it's a little bit hard to say which. Fish is more likely to have worms. Pork is, if it's frozen, they're a bit more likely to die first. But both of these foods, I really don't recommend anyone to eat. So I don't know if anyone's religious, but even in the Bible, they say that you shouldn't eat pork and you shouldn't eat bottom feeders, which are, oysters, mussels, crab, lobster, all that kind of stuff, because these were considered dirty foods even in antiquity. And so with pork, the reason it's so dirty, pigs are just the waste eliminators. They eat absolutely everything. And as we talked about with fish, the biggest fish have this bioaccumulation of toxic materials from eating all the smaller ones. Same thing with pork. Pigs will eat whatever is in front of them, even the dead carcasses of their own young. So do not eat this. That is the absolute worst meat. Pork is also the only meat that has a type of parasitic worm that can travel to your brain. Why anybody would take a chance, even if it's a very, very, very tiny chance, on getting worms in their brain just to eat meat, especially one type of meat, to me, that's totally absurd. If you're one of those people, maybe you can explain that to me in a way that I can understand, but I don't think I ever will. Please avoid pork. Next one. So I talked a little bit about this in the beginning in relation to chronic fatigue syndrome and also adrenal fatigue. Parasites secrete ammonia. So when they're alive, they're secreting small amounts of ammonia. They're making your body constantly work to stay healthy. You shouldn't have this going on in your system. Our bodies should be able to flush this out effectively if we come into it in small amounts. But if our bodies are constantly battling a massive, massive toxic load, we're not going to be able to do that. And so when you do a parasite cleanse, all of a sudden these parasites are going to die, and they are not going to go lightly. You are going to know when they die. So just prepare for that, and just, check in with yourself, your mood, your emotions, all that kind of stuff. And just be realistic. If you're not feeling so great one day, if you're a little bit bloated, maybe you have a headache or something, you have low energy, give your body permission to flush these things out, support your body, drink lots and lots of water, way more than you normally do, so we can flush these toxins out in the urine. Get plenty of sleep. Be super, super, super vigilant about this. Make yourself go to bed early. Lots of sleep doesn't happen in the morning. That's the lowest quality sleep. The quality healing sleep always is going to happen in the first third of the night. So be disciplined, become a morning person. I promise it's worth it. I never used to be a morning person, but after a few cleanses, you just kind of become one. So I encourage them for that reason too. Lots of raw foods, lots of green juices. I have my power shake every single day. I don't miss a day unless I literally run out of it. That's a really great way to get your greens in, your B12. Partake in relaxing activities. So meditation, even just deep breathing, even just taking a couple minutes in the morning for gratitude. You might be thinking, how does this help me get rid of parasites, to just sit and be grateful? But actually, this is a very, very important practice because our minds are very powerful. Anyone who's ever heard of the placebo effect knows this. If your mind is in a healing, happy, grateful state, your immune system will be stronger. Our bodies react to this. Our bodies react to positivity. They also react to negativity. So just check in with yourself as you go through the cleanse. Don't be too hard on yourself, and do things that aren't going to make it worse, like feeding the parasites you're trying to kill with lots of sugar, lots of processed foods, lots of animal products. When you're trying to kill something, don't feed it. Don't make the battle harder for yourself. Just push it out. So support your immune system because 70% of your immune cells approximately are located in your gut, which means that your gut health directly determines your ability to fight literally anything. So if you want to avoid feeding pathogenic or bad bacteria, then what you have to do is starve it out. If you don't feed it, it can't live. So starve it out by nourishing yourself. Hyper nourishing. You can do parasite cleanses with fasting, with only juices. You can do it the deprivation way. I like to encourage people to do it the hyper nourishment way, where you add in more nutrition than your body's ever had in your life, where you don't feel the need to cut calories. We just change what you're eating. And that's a really great way to support your body, and it's not as harsh, and it will allow you to just go through your normal life with only mild symptoms and not dealing with also feeling like you're starving the whole time and going through food withdrawals and things like that. You might have withdrawals of sugars and certain favorite foods of yours, processed foods, but it's just a much easier and more delicate path to go, and it's just as effective. If afterwards you've done lots of cleansing and everything, and then you decide that you want to go into maybe a little juice fast, then great, but I don't advise starting out with that. If you're going from a typical standard American diet, ease yourself into it, hyper nourish, don't deprive. What do parasites crave? So you might think, well, I crave those, but do you really? So interesting thing, I like to tell this story about the last time I did a juice fast. I thought I was absolutely starving. So I was in the grocery store and I was looking around and I was seeing stuff I never normally eat. Muffins, cookies, bread. That stuff looked better than it had ever looked. Every cell in my body was like, you need this, you need this. I'm looking over at all the vegetables I'm purchasing to juice, my celery, my cucumber, my sprouts, and I don't want to eat any of them. And then I realized I'm obviously not hungry because I've got all this real food right in front of me. So what's going on if this isn't hunger? I know that I've gotten all my nutrition for the day from my green juices. So what that actually means is that's not me that wanted those things. And so just by slowly cutting them out, or preferably if you're going to do a cleanse, abruptly cutting them out, you'll see a massive difference. How does fruit sugar in a fruit-based diet affect parasites? Fruit is alkaline, and fruit also, the sugar in it, provided you're eating the whole fruit and not fruit juices, it has all the fiber intact. So that means you're going to prevent blood sugar spikes, and you're still able to eat fruit while on a parasite cleanse. It'll still be effective. Just don't have any other type of fruit of sugars that don't have the important fibers attached. What about PMS junk food cravings? Okay, that's a really good question too. So that's something that I used to get when I was younger, and also cramps, like painful boobs, everything bad, and all that went away. So believe it or not, with cleansing, you can actually get rid of really serious cravings because they could be from one thing or another. It could be your body being deficient in something like magnesium, or it could just be your hormones, or it could be parasite. It could be many, many different things. The cure is always the same. just hyper nourish yourself for 30 days, go through the cleanse and cut out any of these foods that might be very, very harmful. Your hormones can be rebalanced. Parasites actually often can contribute to imbalanced hormones because they actually eat up your nutrients. So parasites either feed off of blood, which is why they can cause anemia, or they feed off of the food that you put in your body. So either way, they're stealing from you, and it's just not going to be a very healthy thing long term if you don't find a way to get rid of them. You can also get rid of them slowly by completely changing your internal environment completely, but it just takes longer. I advise going through the cleanse and really, really committing for 30 days. Just really avoid things like wheat and stuff like that. There's a bunch of questions. I'm going to try not to miss any. Let me see. Okay, for breastfeeding moms. For breastfeeding mothers, you do not want to do a parasite cleanse while you're breastfeeding. You're just going to you're going to skip the super cleanser, the one product I recommend, but you're going to do all of the green juices. You're still going to hyper nourish yourself and put your body in a more alkaline state so that you can manage it better, but you're not going to go on the attack. I'm sorry if I just grossed you out and you're dying to get this out of your body now, but it's not the time. You've made it this far. You're going to be okay. What I do recommend, though, is take other hyper nourishing products, green juice, tart cherry juice, things like that I'll talk about. Do that stuff, but yeah, don't do anything detoxifying until you're finished with breastfeeding. I'm sorry. Any grains, is whole grains okay? Yeah, so you can do grains while you're doing a parasite cleanse, but the parasites will die off a little bit quicker and be a little bit weaker if you don't. It's about finding that balance in your life of how far you're willing to go to be realistic. And let me see. Yeah, so with the grains, definitely you want to stay gluten-free, absolutely. Look for ancient grains. So you can do something like quinoa, that would be a good one. Buckwheat, stuff like that. Just beware of things like quinoa pasta, because sometimes you look at the ingredients and it's actually mostly white rice. So just be mindful of that. But you can definitely do quinoa and that kind of stuff. How can you balance hormones if you have a parasite? First, the parasite has to go. If it's eating all of your food, your hormones are going to be imbalanced, especially as a woman. For women, our bodies are primed to shut off fertility the second we're starving. So our body, or we're very, very stressed. Our bodies don't know if we are at war, flood, running from a bear, whatever. When our bodies get hyper stressed and malnourished, fertility and hormones kind of shut off and can waver. So what you need to do is just focus on healing your body and take time, do everything right. If you haven't been eating properly, if you haven't been doing green juices and things like that, there's no overnight cure, and that's okay. We'll do slow things to support your health. And then when, a few months have gone by, you can check in and see where you are and decide if there's more that you need to do in order to take a more rigorous approach to rebalancing hormones. But I just tell most women, patience is the key and consistency. Have that green juice at the same time every single morning when you wake up. Let your body know nutrients are coming and it can count on you, and you'll see your hormones actually start to regulate. Marissa Remy, she's in this chat as well. So she just waved. She's an amazing person to talk to about this. She very recently just rebalanced her hormones and had an amazing, amazing experience there. So anyone can hit her up to chat about that a little bit more. What about anemia? Okay, so anemia, few different things. So one thing I'll say about anemia is that it can come from parasites because they suck your blood. Another thing with anemia is you might be consuming too much dairy. So dairy can actually cause inflammation, leading to small low-grade bleeding in the small intestine. And that tiny, tiny microscopic blood loss can add up over time, and it can cause anemia. Also, too, if you have very, very heavy periods and you're not getting enough iron in, then that can cause anemia, but rebalancing your hormones will bring that into balance as well. The other thing is caffeine. If you are a caffeine addict, caffeine blocks iron absorption. So going caffeine-free is a really great way to first evaluate what the issue is, if it's something hormonal, if it's parasites, or if it's just your iron is not able to be absorbed. Also, iron pairs well with vitamin C. Have a red pepper with some lentils in it, squeeze lemon over your iron-rich foods. That's a good way to increase absorption and make sure you're getting everything. So we told you what parasites crave. What do parasites dislike? They don't like fermented foods and probiotics. They don't like fruit, pineapple, which contains bromelain, which is an enzyme, papaya and papaya seeds as well, green leafy vegetables with high nutrient content. So my morning green juice is just a great way to create an environment in my body that parasites don't like. Doesn't mean I don't continually do parasite cleanses though. I recommend them every 6 months or at least once a year. So choose living foods. What I mean by living foods is high raw foods, lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, and that will allow us to create symbiosis where we can live in harmony with all of these bugs within us. Eating antioxidants, amazing, amazing way to support your body on your healing journey. Those are my favorites. On the bottom, my apothecary, that's a tart cherry juice concentrate. That's amazing for the skin. Some people call it Botox in a bottle, so it's got all the beauty benefits. But also, we talked about the importance of sleep. So that actually is going to help you produce melatonin, which is, the sleepy, happy hormone that as children we have so much of. And as we get older, our bodies produce less and less, our sleep quality goes down, and our immune system, as a result, can take a dip. So superxanthin is the other one that's really, really good for athletes too, who are going through lots of oxidative stress. Anyone that lives in a city, breathing in pollution, those are really, really high antioxidant foods. Astaxanthin being one of the highest in the world. So I definitely recommend that people add those things into their health regime. And just some more benefits on top of the things I just mentioned, immune boosting functions. These are all the different things that antioxidants are very, very good for. So antioxidants, surprise, only come from fruit and vegetables. You do not get them from meat, dairy, or eggs. Those are not good sources of antioxidants. You have to eat the rainbow. There's a reason we see color as human beings. There's a reason we see fruit and it looks so beautiful and vibrant and we want to eat it. That's our natural food. We're supposed to be drawn to this. There's a reason why if you see a dead carcass on the side of the road, you don't want to crawl over and start gnawing on it. That's not our diet. Otherwise, we would look very different. Our teeth, our claws, even our vision would be very, very different. So just go with your instinct. What looks beautiful, what looks like food, that's what you should be eating. Skin and gut health as well as you cleanse. So this is Bree. Bree is another amazing person to chat to if you're interested in skin health. So as you can see, she's stunningly beautiful in both pictures, but her 30-day transformation also had a very big difference for her skin. I put her Instagram there if anybody wants to chat with her, particularly about skin issues. She's a great person to reach out to and guide you on that as well. And there's different things that can cause skin issues. It's not necessarily parasites. It's just often related to the gut. And so by cleaning the gut, by hyper-nourishing ourselves, by removing parasites, by removing glyphosate, which is another benefit of this cleanse, which is a toxic GMO pesticide. Talked a little bit about it last time, not too much this time, but I can if you guys want more info. But just by doing this cleanse, by giving our body the tools to heal, who knows what you're going to see. This is the cleanse, the ultimate lifestyle transformation. So that's your 30-day supply of superfoods. So it can replace 2 meals a day. You could live off of this for a month. I don't want you to. I want you to eat the whole time. I'll guide you on what to eat. Or if you have any friends who invited you to this who are also cleansers, get them to guide you through what to eat. And it's a really, really, really amazing, amazing thing to do, especially as a couple. So romantic, guys. So this is what's in it, pure vegan proteins that are pre-digested. So that means they don't break a fast. You can have them in the morning. They're assimilated, super, super hyper nourishing for the body. Also a good pre-workout burst of energy. Power Shake is the green juice I talked to you about. Biomedic is another gut cleanser that's going to lower inflammation in the body by about 75% according to clinical trials, and it's going to remove about 74% of glyphosate. So those are those toxic GMO pesticides that we don't want in our bodies. I told you about the apothecary, my cherry juice, and that's Super Cleanser. This is the parasite killer. This is your new best friend if you've never taken it. While you're taking it, you might not feel like it's your best friend, but long term, this is an amazing, amazing thing to do. It's going to increase illumination. That means you're going to go to the bathroom a lot, but that's a good thing. You're not supposed to have 3 years worth of waste clogging up your system, carrying that around, release toxins, and it can help you flush out parasites as well. But with the 30-day program, if you want to do a full parasite cleanse, just add on another super cleanser, because that way you want to take it for 10 days, take a break for 10, and then take it again. So by doing it that way, by adding on one more pack, you can make sure that you fully kill the parasites and also their eggs. As their eggs hatch, you want to be killing those too. So in the first 10 days, you might wipe out the parasites, but then 10 days later, they might have some little eggies hatch. So you want to wipe those out too, and then you know you're good for 6 months to a year. This is a friend of mine, shared with permission. So this is why I do this. This is why I love being a nutritionist, and this is why I love to guide people on these cleanses. This was somebody who just did that cleanse for 30 days. And to be honest, I think she only ordered it, I thought initially, to support my Belize project because she knew I was donating my commissions, and it ended up changing her life. And so I get so many messages like this that I could do a whole webinar of just people's transformations. But it's a really, really amazing thing what happens and how quickly the body will respond to us nourishing it properly and getting rid of inflammation. So I'm not doing my food drive in Belize anymore because things have reopened. But what I am doing is I have a nonprofit in Belize now, which I would love to chat to anybody about if you're interested. We're focusing now, instead of on emergency food response, on education, conservation, and permaculture. So anybody who wants to do a parasite cleanse with me, I'm going to plant a tree, and you can pick. You can choose an avocado tree, an orange tree, a berry bush. I'll give you the little list. We've got some really cool special Taiwanese mango trees, all different ones. So you can pick a tree and I will have it planted in Belize for you. And if you ever come to visit the Eden Project, you can try and find your tree. This is the site and what it looks like. We're going to be educating Belizeans and especially children on eating the rainbow, getting back to nature, learning about permaculture, how to have a backyard garden, how to be self-sufficient so that if there ever is a time where tourism is completely shut down again, where maybe food isn't coming into the country or there's a shortage, everybody's taken care of with a backyard garden. And we want to just make compost cool. We want to make gardening cool for everybody. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. And if you do the cleanse, I'll plant a tree for you. Or also if you want to donate a tree, let me know and I'll accept it too. And this is one of my favorite quotes: take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. That resonates with me especially because I am a traveler, and so this is my home and this is what I have to take care of. And for everybody, making an investment in yourself, I think is one of the most important things that we can do. This is your body for life. Even if you're young and you think that you're still healthy and junk food doesn't really matter, it does. It all adds up. And so if anyone has any more questions also about the Eden Project, my friend Vanessa, she's on this call. Her Instagram is @fingerprintvanessa. She's also helping with that project as well too. So that'd be a good person for you to connect with if you have any questions. And yeah, so I'll try and go through the chat now and see if there was any questions that I missed. Thank you to everybody who enjoyed it and left me the beautiful feedback. Okay, moringa powder. I think you mean moringa powder to take out parasites. Moringa doesn't take out parasites. Everything in the super cleanser does, and it's also formulated with clove. Clove is one of the only things that properly kills eggs. So the super cleanser is perfect as it is. Moringa is just a really good superfood. It's like a multivitamin, but it doesn't kill parasites. So can you transfer good bacteria like you can transfer parasites between couples? No, I wish it was that easy. So no, you can't transfer good bacteria unless you get a fecal transplant, which is a thing now, actually. They're using that in interventional studies with autistic children because they're finding a massive link, no surprise, between major gut dysbiosis. And so, yeah, it's a very, very interesting new area of research. But no, unfortunately, you can't trade the good things unless you're both disciplined and you trade habits where you get them to juice with you and have the power shake. Okay, noni fruit. Yeah, noni fruit is a very cleansing fruit. It smells like rotting cheese, so if you can choke that down, good for you. I couldn't. But noni fruit, unless you're in the tropics, you can get it fresh. The pasteurized bottled stuff on the shelf isn't really going to do anything anymore, so I wouldn't really go for that. I don't think that's super useful. Okay, question. A lot of people have been asking me about the gluten content in Biomedic. Can you please explain? Yeah, so Biomedic, because it is wheat germ extract, it would have tiny, tiny trace amounts of gluten. It's not the whole plant, so it's not like eating a piece of bread. It actually is below the threshold of a gluten-free certified product. So believe it or not, when you buy gluten-free pasta, gluten-free bread, muffins, any of that stuff, it's actually allowed to have certain trace amounts of gluten in it. It doesn't mean 100 million% gluten-free. It just means like it's trace amounts. And it's the same with the Biometric. So it does meet the standards of gluten-free by being below that threshold, but it does have tiny amounts of gluten in it. Whether if you have celiac and you're deciding whether or not to use it, that's something that you're going to have to decide for yourself, consult your doctor, check in with yourself. I personally know people that have had celiac that used it, and it actually helps quite a bit when they got gluten, so to speak. They had a really good response, but I'm not going to recommend that to anybody. I'm going to tell you to check in with your doctor first, but it is a trace amount that would be considered gluten-free certified if it was, you know, a food product. Oh my gosh, I'm coming and planting trees. Yay, anyone can come plant a tree. It's gonna be amazing. You can swim in the creek, you can swim in the river. We're gonna be taking some volunteers as soon as things are moving a little farther along, but with COVID slowing stuff down, it could be a few months, and plus I'm here in America doing my time, so I'll be back there soon. Let me see, soy in the protein. So the cleanse doesn't have any protein powder in it, and it's completely soy free. Purium does make, in my opinion, the highest quality protein powder because it's heavy metal tested, lead tested, glyphosate tested, most important, and it has adaptogenic mushrooms in it. That's not soy. That's a blend of pea, hemp, brown rice. So that's a really good one. Chia, but there's no soy in it. How many caps per day? Yeah, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. That's the way to do it. If you want to do it quickly, you can go a little bit slower to start, but then you're going to need to just take it longer. So it depends how much you want to completely dive in. Someone said parasites help you to get cancer. Yeah, there's a lot of theories. This isn't solidified research, but there's a lot of theories out there that hopefully get investigated more by the mainstream that parasites do potentially play a role in cancer. They say it takes an average of 14 years from something to go from the clinical research phase to actual practice and to trickle into the education field. So sometimes when things, for example, reversing diabetes on a plant-based diet, we all know that you can. There's plenty of studies showing that individuals have, with strict adherence, reversed their type 2 diabetes with a plant-based diet, but that is still not common practice to be taught and given as advice from physicians. So things are just a little bit slow, and sometimes we're ahead of the game. How often do I recommend doing the cleanse? Twice a year, every 6 months. That's when I recommend it. I'm gearing up to do my next one, actually, so I'm so excited. Allison cured her eczema. Yeah, so it's exactly. She's a great person to talk to as well about skin conditions because all of the stuff is intrinsically linked. Nothing in the body is in isolation of everything else. So if you see something coming up on the surface, for me, what I started to notice after many years gluten-free, I decided maybe that, you know, I'd have a little bit of gluten and I was getting like eyelid eczema, like red, itchy under my eyes, swollen face. It was crazy. And I think I became gluten intolerant over time. But what happened was, as I pulled this stuff out of my system, when you go to put it back in again, you do not feel good at all. You feel very sick. And my body wanted to purge it immediately. It was within like hours. So I really try and avoid eating anything with wheat products now. Tea tree oil. Yeah, tea tree oil is good for surface stuff, but just be careful not to burn your skin. I know people who have done that. Always dilute it. If you're going to put it on the skin, use some coconut oil or something. With essential oils too, separate topic, but if you are using them for something topical, you want them to stay in place, you have to dilute them in a carrier oil to keep them there. Otherwise, they will go through the body too quickly. So carrier oil is just a slower distribution through your system. Eric made a great point. Yes, that also could be a whole webinar in itself. A lot of gluten sensitivity is actually a reaction to glyphosate that is sprayed on wheat. So a lot of people who think they have a gluten sensitivity, they have a glyphosate sensitivity. Glyphosate is one of the biggest risk factors to human health, in my opinion. I talked a lot about it on my last webinar, and I think I'm going to do another one, you know, in a few months or something on it because it's so important. I actually posted an article by an MIT PhD scientist on my Instagram yesterday where she talked about the connection between glyphosate and COVID-19. She wasn't saying that glyphosate causes COVID-19. What she was saying that in high spray areas and in people with elevated levels, they seem to have worse symptoms. And the story was taken down. I got a warning for me sharing harmful disinformation. My account could be deleted. I'm probably shadow banned again. I always get shadow banned, but it's fun, whatever. Big pharma can just deal with me, I guess. So I'm just going to keep posting that stuff. If it keeps getting taken down, I don't know, look quickly on my stories, but I put it back up again. I just didn't put the link this time. I just did a screenshot of it. So if anybody wants to find that article, it's just very interesting food for thought. Sometimes there's, more than one way to get to a health condition. And so by analyzing all these different things that can get us there, it's good to know we should be taking care of ourselves in many, many levels. We should be taking care of parasites, glyphosate, making sure our gut is healthy, and our health outcomes will just be better. Okay, is it normal that the cleaner you get, the less you can handle processed foods? Yes. Sorry. Some people actually say this to me as an excuse to not get healthy when they're like, well, I don't want to feel sick after I eat toxic food. And I'm like, you don't want your body to tell you you've just been poisoned when you've just been poisoned. It's actually a very good thing if it does. You want to have that reaction. You don't want to feel good afterwards because you don't want to be eating those foods for life. If you care about longevity, if you care about being there for your kids, your partner, your family, then you need to make a choice. Is it the junk food and the parasites, or is it the amazing hyper-nourishing foods? And if you aren't sure which choice to make, that means you just haven't tried the hyper-nourishing foods and you don't know how good you could feel. Because once you do, you don't give that up. Maybe you give it up for one meal and you're like, oh God, never again. And maybe in a few months you'll forget, but you don't go back to living that way. It doesn't feel good. You just won't. Okay. Yeah, as you become sensitive, you do become more aware. Also, other things too that are not scientifically proven, but a lot of people, as they start to cleanse, they find that their intuition's a little bit sharper, that their mental acuity is a lot better. They respond to things quicker, they remember things quicker, they become better learners, their creativity explodes. It's amazing what happens as we clean the gut. This is a very new area of research. It's very young, and we still have a lot to learn in that area, and probably about 14 years after learning it before it becomes standard in education and clinical practice. But for now, experiment on your own body. You're not doing anything wrong by drinking too much green juice. You're going to feel really great. For your twice a year cleanse, do you buy the same cleansing package? Yep. Same thing twice a year. And a lot of the products in the package, I literally take every day. I take my aminos, I take my green juice, I take my tart cherry juice, all that kind of stuff. It's just the super cleanser that's different. And when I'm on the cleanse, I'm taking higher amounts of those foods to support my body nutritionally while I'm flushing out all this disgusting ammonia from the parasites. Can I quickly explain what not to eat while cleansing? Yes. Okay, so I can try and pull that up again actually too. Basically, don't eat animal products to the best of your ability. Please don't eat sugars. And that includes, maple syrups and things like that. It might not be considered sugar to you, but to the parasites, it's still food. So hold on, let me pull my screen share back up. There we go. So what do parasites crave? All of that crap, don't eat it. It's not food. It's not human food, and once you cut it out and you feel disgusting, you will know that it's not human food and you'll be much less likely to eat it again. If you do want to eat out, there's so many restaurants now that are either plant-based or they have plant-based menus that are really trying. So we don't need to eat this way anymore. We can level up and also support people doing the right thing, support organic farmers, support plant-based restaurants. Yeah, so George said he experienced it when he ate some junk food after being on fruit for a while. So upset stomach, loss of appetite, constipation. So that's what happens when your body starts to get clean and you start to notice these things. It doesn't mean that you didn't experience them before. It means that your baseline of health was down here, not up here. So you just felt like kind of crappy all the time. That's how it was for me. And once I started to feel really good, when I felt kind of crappy, it felt so much worse than before because it was such a big drop. The food, I mean, the food that I speak about, do I mean raw food? I mean, I do the green juices from the cleanse. It's called Power Shake. I do that every single day, but also high raw food diet. You always want to have some raw with your cooked foods because once you cook foods, the enzymes die. So if you're, having a big cooked meal, have a little bit of raw with it, just even if you're munching on some romaine while you cook, that's something that I like to do. Just try and combine those things. Also with all of the Purium products, the shakes, all that kind of stuff, it is living raw dehydrated food, which means once you add water, you've activated it, drink it within 15 minutes. If you make a green juice or a smoothie at home, drink it within 15 minutes. Anything living, don't let it oxidize. The antioxidants will die and you're just wasting money. You're not going to get as much out of your food. So have it within that 15, 20-minute window. Do I have a list of great foods to play with the cleanse? Yes, there's a little video called Flex Foods that I can share with anybody who would like to see it. And that just talks about amazing options to have while on the cleanse, and just stick to plant-based and high raw. And I personally love to just Google raw vegan recipes too when I do cleanses. And I just did 10 days raw like a couple weeks ago and it was amazing. I loved it. So that's a really great thing to try as well. How do I feel about frozen fruit and veggies? Great, no problem. Common misconception that they're not as good because they're frozen, but actually they're often flash frozen at peak freshness. So it's a really good way to save money. Do frozen fruit in your smoothies and things like that. And same with vegetables, you can cook them from frozen and they're still going to have a lot of nutrients, and it's a really great budget friendly option as well if you're doing plant-based on a budget. So don't be afraid of the raw stuff. Sometimes the fresh stuff actually traveled for months on a truck before it gets to us. Oranges are often gas ripened on a truck and things like that. So, you know, when you can't get local and fresh, then frozen's okay for sure. Okay, is the appleberry power shake, carbonated water, pomegranate juice? I don't know that combo. That sounds delicious. I don't really drink carbonated water, but that sounds really good. And thank you, Melissa, who added the cleanse changed my life. My sleep is much better. My fibromyalgia pain, lost weight. I have so much energy. I hear stories like this all the time. What I love about this is something that Allison Lester said. This is not food that helps people just go vegan. It helps people stay vegan. So many people are confused on a plant-based diet about what to eat, making sure they get all their nutrients. And so being able to support your body with all of that is really amazing, to just feel good and know that you got half your nutrition for the day from your shake. Everything else you eat is a nice bonus. Do fermented foods not cause acidity in the body? So if you're having fermented foods like pickles in vinegar or something, I like to stay away from vinegars. I find those are a bit too acidic for most people. So small amounts of things like kimchi, sauerkraut, that's not going to cause acidity in the body. If you're eating exclusively those foods, then yes, you don't want to eat only fermented foods. But we know that our gut bacteria like to feed on these foods, and so they can be beneficial. Kombucha being the exception. Don't go to the grocery store and spend $6 on a big kombucha drink that is full of sugar. Some of them say like 20 grams of sugar or something absurd. You might as well drink a Coca-Cola for that much sugar, which I don't recommend you do either. But yeah, watch out for that stuff. There's a lot of greenwashing out there, companies and products that like to pretend they're really healthy, but they're actually not. A lot of superfood companies and things like that aren't testing for heavy metals, they aren't testing for pesticides. Most importantly, they aren't testing for glyphosate. I don't want to spend money on stuff that hasn't been tested to make sure there's no glyphosate in it. That's crazy. So would I say apple cider vinegar is very acidic? It is very acidic. In small amounts, it's okay. Also, if you're somebody with low stomach acid, if you've been eating meat your whole life, then having small amounts of apple cider vinegar on a salad before a meal can help digest while you build up that stomach acid in transition. But yeah, I don't have tons and tons of vinegars and things like that. They are a bit acidic to the body. You know, the research on that is still iffy. If you feel good on them, that's okay. It's not like a black and white thing, but I think when you're doing your parasite cleanse, really try not to overdo the vinegars and stuff. And yeah, Biomedic has probiotics in it. Most importantly, it also has prebiotics in it. So our probiotics, they need their bacteria, they need to eat, they need to feed, they need to live. So what will allow them to do that is prebiotic fibers, which we get from fruit and vegetables, certain ones in particular. So Biomedic has that in there, which is awesome. So doing the ultimate lifestyle transformation the last 10 days, do we take 2 capsules once a.m. or twice p.m.? You take 4 capsules a day, 2 in the morning and 2 at night to kill parasites. That's how you want to do it. What's in my homemade green drink? So I do love juicing, but I'm a traveler and I'm on the go. So I have my power shake every single day. That's the one in the cleanse. But when I make green juices, I like to do, celery, cucumber, lemon, and some sprouts. But for me, the bane of my existence for, the last few years in practice is trying to get my clients to juice, and they get excited about it and they buy a juicer and they do it for like a few days, maybe even a week, and then all of a sudden they don't have the energy, they don't want to clean it, it's a huge pain. And so just telling people to add water to really high quality powdered greens is something accessible that people actually do. Even my parents do it now, which is really awesome. How many times can you do the cleanse? Twice a year with the super cleanser. So order the 2 packs, but I wouldn't do it more than twice a year. You don't need to do parasite cleanses that often. And if you're somebody who's feeling really, really amazing and you have none of those symptoms, then, cut down to once a year just as a nice cleanse. Don't even do it twice a year. But if your diet's kind of up and down, you might have quite a few of the symptoms on that list, then that would be a good thing to do twice a year. Is the liver cleanse, I assume, similar to Parasite? It's the same coming out. I don't know what liver cleanse you mean. I don't know any liver cleanses that are actually clinically effective. I've never seen anyone talk about that. I have seen clinical trials on Parasite cleanses using the various different herbs and things like that I'm recommending. And same with the glyphosate as well. The biomedic pulls out glyphosate. That's clinically proven. I don't know of any liver cleanses. The liver is a self-cleansing organ. It's just more about supporting the liver so that it's actually able to do its job. So don't burden it down with lots of alcohol, tons of sugars, tons of processed foods. Just get out of its way and let it cleanse on its own. What if you never see parasites come up? You probably won't. I've only had probably a handful of people in my life, which is probably more than most people, send me pictures of their poo with parasites in it. So most people actually don't see anything. A lot of them are microscopic, or people don't want to sift through and look for that. So you don't need to see it. You'll know, you'll feel better. You'll be less bloated. You won't look at a muffin like it's the last piece of food on earth when you're in a grocery store. You'll feel better and you'll really know. So, but some people might see stuff. That's happened as well. They're in our blood, most microscopic, exactly. So some people with pinworms and roundworms can sometimes see them, but yeah, for the most part, you're not really going to see anything. It's going to be about how you feel. What if you're really constipated doing the cleanse? Drink more water, for sure. Sleep more and eat more raw vegetables, eat more greens, have more green juices, tons and tons of fiber. I can also recommend daily fiber blend as well if you need help with that. So just make sure you're getting enough fiber in and enough water, and it's not going to happen eating this way. It's not possible with that much fiber and all these plant-based foods. What are the side effects of dengue fever? Oh, you recently had dengue. I'm so sorry. Yeah, lots of rest, tons and tons of water, really, really nourish your body and go through the cleanse when you're ready to do it. But definitely lots of sleep, lots of water, lots of green juice. Just take care of yourself. Lots of quiet time for reflection, for meditation. These are things that support immunity as well. Alice had dengue too. Oh my gosh, you guys. That's horrible. Everyone experiences it differently. And I think probably, Alice, I know you're super healthy. So probably your body was equipped to support you in fighting it. My son and I are doing the 30-day transformation. We ran out of product, so only taking 2 cleansers per day. I'm ordering more. Should we do it longer, 20 days? Yeah, I would. I mean, okay, how old is your son? I'm going to say depends on his age. If he's an adult, then yeah, you'll probably need a little bit more. That dose is meant to attack and kill. And so if you cut it back, that's okay. You're just doing it a little bit slower and gentler, which is also effective. It just depends on what kind of person you are. Are you like a rapid attack or a little bit slow? Um, Okay, guys. So yeah, if anyone has any more questions about stuff, message me, message anyone from my amazing green juice cleansing tribe. This is hopefully recorded if someone can tell me how to retrieve it, and I'll post it on IGTV or something. So thank you so much for coming, and yeah, message me what I should talk about next month. Bye, everyone. Oh, what's my IG? At Sarah Brando, SarahBrandow.